Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host, and this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. Well, this time, it's not a comic book, but it's something about comics. This is Zap to Zippy. It's the impact of underground comics. Zap to Zippy. This is a publication from 1990 from the Cartoon Art Museum, San Francisco. And this publication was in conjunction with an art exhibit that they had there. That was titled Zap to Zippy. Here, this is the this cover. It's by Victor Moscoso. Both front and back. This is some naughty stuff from San Francisco, California. And this is a book magazine. This is basically the catalog for the exhibit. It features many of the pieces that are in the exhibit, and then ends up with a catalog of a checklist of the pieces for the exhibit, which are much more than the few pieces that they do show here. Now, this features a foreword by Will Eisner, with an introduction by Bill Griffith. Bill Griffith is the creator of Zippy. And remember, Will Eisner is the creator of The Spirit, author of several graphic novels, very influential graphic novels, and he's a master storytelling of sequential art, and he is quite literally he quite literally wrote the book on comics and sequential art. Okay, and the Cartoon Art Museum, San Francisco, was founded in 1984. Features stuff from comic strips, comic books, graphic novels, anime, and political cartoons and underground comics. It has an original cartoon art exhibits and screenings, and has classes so children and adults can learn cartooning and animation with the classes and workshops. Their collection and library is available for research by students, scholars, or the interested parties, and they can mingle with professionals and aspiring cartoonists. The museum houses 7,000 pieces in the permanent collection and has more than 30,000 visitors per year. By celebrating the history and social role of cartoon art, they hope to inspire generations of visual storytellers. Sounds like a place I'd like to go sometime. And when I was doing some research and looking online, and they are currently having a tribute exhibit of Trina Robbins, who, as a San Francisco-based cartoonist, had a long association with the museum. So, yes. See if I can get this. Okay, so we'll take a little look just through here. Now, as the frontispiece, Trash Man. And you can see here's Zap to Zippy, Impact of Underground Comics, a 25-year retrospective. Now, the funny thing is that at this point, Underground Comics had, going back 25 years. So it's been 34 years since this exhibit. So it's like 59 years all told. So this book is older than the underground comics were at the time. Of course, featuring Zap to Zippy, so it has a cover to Zap forward, and it's one I want to show you here because you might wonder why Will Eisner, because he was seemed so mainstream. Well, not necessarily, because here it shows Will Eisner got into underground comics, and this is a cover he did for Snarf, and it features the spirit on the cover with all the hippie types and not knowing what's going on. So he was also an underground cartoonist. Now, I want to read a paragraph from his forward here. This is forward, Me and Underground Comics by Will Eisner, and here he is referring to the comics in the 60s. This medium, which so long confined itself mostly to the simple entertainment, now began to function as a conduit of the larger themes that social protest involves. Now the comic book, with its very sophisticated arrangement of words and pictures in sequence, was functioning as a kind of revolutionary literature in the hands of angry dissenters who had something to say. Moreover, what they said was best told by comics because it is the most viable and powerful literary weapon at hand. The underground artists... The underground artists who contributed to the output were the modern equivalents of social gadflies, Rollinson and Dolmier. They were very opinionated cartoonists of the 1800s, and showed it. Of an earlier time, printed in black and white on a cheap paper and employing often primitive artwork, these comics were sold in head shops and at high prices compared to mainstream publications. Outrageous, irreverent, raunchy, and emotional, they addressed unmentionable subjects and blatantly violated the Comics Code authority. Yeah, they surely did. So, and that is just part of his introduction. You can see all some of these examples of comics, and of course, this features the book itself features articles or essays by and about comics history and historians. That is. Comics with an X. Yeah, and has stuff here featured here by so many of the seminal underground creators. And this is because it's from 1990. I've had this for 30 odd years, so it's probably almost 32, 33 years is how long I've had this book. And it's probably something that you're not likely to come across, just because it's not something that was distributed around to comic shops and the like, or bookstores. Now, in his foreword, Eisner mentions the influence that underground comics and the creators had on him. He was introduced, met several of the creators at a comic convention in '72, I think it was, and it's also his introduction to the underground comics. And he was so inspired by their freedom, by their work. It prompted him, probably not solely, to divest himself of the business that he had, which was doing comics for education and instruction stuff for industry and government. And then he started on a 2-year project, solo project of his own, of producing his first graphic novel, Contract with God, and took him 2 years to produce that. So I don't know what else he was doing there, and so it had a big influence on the mainstream comics as well, just in competition and a lot of the creators' freedom that the creators wanted to engage in. Now, then I read in reading the introduction by Bill Griffith of a creator of Zippy the Pinhead, and which is now a mainstream comic strip in the newspapers. It started as an underground. He was telling how in the early 60s he was a studio artist, a painter, and after his introduction to underground comics, he and the underground newspapers, which is where underground comics actually got their start. He did a strip and sold it to an underground newspaper. Never looked back. Got rid of his brushes and canvases, and has been doing comics ever since. And then plus it mentioned something about the death of Greg Irons, which prompted my curiosity. I've shown some of Greg Irons' comics among my underground comics, and I didn't know this. He was also Greg Irons and was a tattoo artist as well as a cartoonist, and apparently in what was it 1984, he went to, was it Bangkok? I think it was Bangkok. If not Bangkok, another Asian city-state like that. And he it was a working vacation. He was learning about tattoo art in Asia, and he was run over by a bus and killed. It's like, how horrible was that? And he was just in his mid-30s at the time. So that prompted was stuff in my head. So wow. But this is an interesting, just a little retrospective of underground comics and their influence in the social cultures of the time, as well as the publishing world overall, comics publishing world overall. So that's all I've got to share with you this time. And I want to thank you for joining me. Please like, share, and subscribe. Do leave your comments down below. By some chance, do you know this book? Have you been to or anyway associated with the Cartoon Art Museum in San Francisco? Because I would love to go there sometime. Let me know. Or have you been to it? Have you associated with it? Anything like that. Let me know in the comments below. And remember, comics are art.